I walked through our front door an hour earlier than expected, a bouquet of red roses clutched in my hand and a bottle of champagne tucked under my arm. Today marked 5 years of marriage to Stephanie, and I wanted to surprise her by coming home early. My heart practically sang as I pulled into our driveway until I spotted an unfamiliar black BMW parked there. Inside, I heard muffled voices coming from upstairs from our bedroom. For just a moment, I tried to convince myself it could be anything else. But deep down, I already knew. Instead of charging upstairs for a confrontation, I quietly set down the flowers, and Champagne turned around and walked out. Before I tell you how I vanished from my cheating wife's life without a word, and the chaos that followed, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button. You'll want to stick around for the moment everything changed. I met Stephanie at my college buddy Jackson's 4th of July barbecue. She stood by the grill in a sundress laughing at something someone had said. The way the evening light caught in her dark hair stopped me mid-conversation. Jackson noticed me staring and offered to introduce us. She worked in marketing for a tech company downtown, smart and ambitious, with an infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. We talked until the stars came out, and I found myself completely enchanted. Our connection was immediate and intense. Within a week, we were texting constantly. By the second date, I knew there was something special developing. She had this way of making me feel understood, in a way no one else ever had. 3 months in, we were practically inseparable, spending 5 or 6 nights a week together, seamlessly integrating into each other's lives. 8 months after we met, we decided to move in together. My lease was ending, and it seemed like the natural progression. Our friends called us crazy, but it felt right. I still remember carrying her over the threshold of our apartment like we were already married. She decorated it beautifully, turning my bachelor furniture and sparse decor into a real home. On our 1-year anniversary, I proposed at the same barbecue where we first met. I had worked with Jackson for weeks to set it up perfectly. When I dropped to one knee, tears filled her eyes before I even finished asking the question. Her yes was immediate, followed by promises of forever faithfulness and building a beautiful life together. I believed every word. Our wedding day remains one of the happiest of my life. Stephanie was breathtaking in her white dress, and when she recited her vows promising to love and cherish me always, I felt like the luckiest man alive. My parents adored her. Her family welcomed me warmly, and our friends celebrated us as a perfect match. I truly believed we would grow old together, surrounded by children and grandchildren holding hands into our twilight years. After the honeymoon, we threw ourselves into building our life together. We saved for 3 years to buy our dream home in a quiet Boston suburb. A beautiful colonial with a fenced yard, where we planned to raise the family we both wanted. I worked as a software developer, and she continued climbing the corporate ladder at her marketing firm. We supported each other through professional challenges, late nights, stressful projects, job changes, always functioning as a team. We established our own little traditions and rituals that strengthened our bond. Sunday morning pancakes, monthly date nights where phones stayed home, summer road trips to Maine, and holiday traditions that blended both our families' customs. We hosted dinner parties where friends commented on how in sync we were, finishing each other's sentences and moving around each other in the kitchen without words. During those first few years, my happiness felt complete and genuine. I woke up each morning grateful for the woman sleeping next to me, proud of what we were building together. We talked about starting a family soon, even began researching school districts and setting up a dedicated savings account for future education costs. Our relationship seemed unshakable. The first subtle changes were so gradual I barely noticed them. Stephanie started working later, citing big projects and demanding clients. Weekend emergency meetings became more frequent. She would return home tired, less interested in our usual conversations or activities. I supported her ambition and tried to be understanding of her increased workload, picking up more household responsibilities without complaint. New colleagues entered her life that she mentioned in passing but never introduced me to. Names like Brad, Jennifer, and Tyler peppered her work stories, but whenever I suggested meeting them at company events, she always had a reason why it would not work out. I thought nothing of it at the time. People are busy, schedules, conflict. Nothing to worry about. Then came the small technological shifts. Her phone password changed. She started keeping it face down whenever we were together. Notifications would come in, and she would glance at them quickly, before dismissing them, a slight tension appearing in her shoulders. When I asked casual questions about who was texting so late, her answers became increasingly vague. Just work stuff, or nothing important. Our intimate life gradually diminished. Both physical closeness and emotional sharing became less frequent. She rarely initiated affection anymore. When I reached for her at night, she was often too tired or stressed about tomorrow's presentation. I tried to be patient and understanding, attributing everything to her demanding career. One evening while doing laundry, I found receipts in her coat pocket from restaurants and bars she had never mentioned visiting. When I asked about them, she had plausible explanations: ready lunch meetings, team happy hours, networking events. I wanted to believe her, so I did. My unease continued to grow during a dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant. We had secured reservations weeks in advance to celebrate her promotion. Throughout the meal, she seemed distant, checking her phone every few minutes, smiling at texts that came through. When I asked if everything was okay, she assured me it was just work emergencies she needed to monitor. I watched her from across the table, wondering when this invisible wall had formed between us. The following week, my longtime friend Jake called and asked to meet for a beer. His discomfort was obvious as he nursed his drink, avoiding eye contact. Finally, he admitted he had seen Stephanie at an upscale restaurant downtown having what appeared to be an intimate dinner with an unknown man. They had been holding hands across the table, engaged in intense conversation. Jake had left without approaching them, but felt I deserved to know. My stomach dropped, but I immediately constructed explanations in my head. When I confronted Stephanie that evening, she seemed momentarily startled, then quickly composed herself. She explained it had been an important client meeting, that hand-holding was just a gesture of reassurance after he had shared concerns about their campaign strategy. Her explanation seemed rehearsed, but plausible. I chose to believe her despite the doubt gnawing at me. In the weeks that followed, I made extra efforts to rekindle our connection. I planned special date nights, cooked her favorite meals, bought thoughtful gifts, and suggested weekend getaways. Her response was lukewarm at best. She participated, but the spark and enthusiasm that had once characterized our relationship remained absent. Still, I held on to hope that we were just going through a rough patch that all marriages experience. Our 5th anniversary was approaching, and I was determined to make it special, to remind her of the love and commitment we shared. I requested the day off work, purchased concert tickets to her favorite band, made dinner reservations at the restaurant where we had our first date, and bought an expensive necklace she had been eyeing. The day before, I ordered her favorite flowers to be delivered to our home. That morning, I told her I had meetings all day, but would meet her at the restaurant. In reality, I planned to surprise her by coming home early, ready to start our celebration there before dinner. I envisioned her delight when she found me waiting with champagne flowers and gifts. I even cleaned the house thoroughly before leaving, wanting everything to be perfect. I drove to the florist personally to select the perfect bouquet of red roses mixed with white lilies, her favorites. I splurged on an expensive bottle of champagne from the specialty shop across town. My heart was light with anticipation as I drove home, imagining the surprise on her face, hoping this gesture might help us reconnect. As I turned onto our street around 3:30 in the afternoon, I noticed an unfamiliar black BMW parked in our driveway. Stephanie had mentioned she would be working until 5. A fleeting thought crossed my mind. Perhaps she had also planned a surprise, taking the afternoon off. Maybe the car belonged to a delivery person or service worker. I parked on the street, not wanting to block the unknown vehicle. Walking up our front path, I heard music playing faintly from inside. Unlocking the door quietly, still hoping to surprise her, I stepped into our entryway. The house seemed different somehow. There was an unfamiliar cologne in the air, mingled with her perfume. Then I heard it, unmistakable sounds coming from upstairs from our bedroom. Voices, hers, and a male's soft laughter, followed by other sounds that stabbed through me like physical blows. I stood frozen in the entryway, flowers in one hand, champagne in the other, as my world imploded around me. I could have stormed upstairs, created a scene, demanded explanations. But something stopped me. A strange calm descended as I placed the flowers and champagne silently on the entryway table. My eyes caught sight of her wedding ring sitting on the bathroom counter downstairs, removed for her betrayal. The weight of confirmed betrayal crushed down on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. All the small incidents, the changed behaviors, the excuses and explanations suddenly aligned into a clear picture of deception. Our entire relationship, what I had believed was a loving partnership, reframed itself in my mind as something hollow built on lies. My first instinct was to charge upstairs, confront them both, unleash the volcanic anger building inside me. My foot was on the first stair when clarity hit me like cold water. What would that accomplish? Shouting, fighting, humiliating myself further by engaging with their betrayal, creating a dramatic scene that would give her something to discuss with friends, painting me as the jealous, reactive husband. In that moment of crystalline clarity, I realized my worth. I deserved better than betrayal in our marital bed, better than lies and disrespect, better than fighting for someone who had so casually discarded our vows. I deserved my dignity. I turned around, walked out as quietly as I had entered, got back into my car, and drove away. Tears streamed down my face as I navigated through traffic on autopilot. I had no destination in mind, just the desperate need to put distance between myself and the shattering of my world. For hours, I drove aimlessly through Boston suburbs, processing what had happened. Every memory, every moment of our relationship replayed in my mind with new context. How long had the affairs been going on? Were there signs I had missed or ignored? Was anything between us ever real? The questions tormented me as miles accumulated on the odometer. Eventually, I checked into a hotel downtown, unable to face returning home. Sitting on the edge of the bed, in that anonymous room, I experienced waves of emotion, devastation, rage, humiliation, grief, washing over me in turns. But as the night progressed, something unexpected emerged from the emotional storm resolve. By morning, I had formulated a plan. Not one of confrontation or revenge, but of complete disappearance. I would not give her the satisfaction of my anger or the opportunity to manipulate me with explanations or apologies. I would simply vanish from her life, as completely and suddenly as my trust in her had. I called my friend Daniel, the one person I knew I could trust implicitly. Without going into detail over the phone, I asked if I could stay at his guest house for a while. Daniel, hearing the strain in my voice, agreed immediately. Next, I called my boss, requesting immediate personal leave, citing a family emergency. 10 years of dedicated work, with no extended time off, earned me understanding and support. At the bank, I withdrew my portion of our joint savings account money I had earned, and contributed, leaving her share untouched. I purchased a new phone with a new number, created new email accounts, and temporarily deactivated all social media. With each step, I felt not only pain, but a strange sense of empowerment. For the first time since discovering her betrayal, I was taking control of my life again. 2 days after walking out, I returned to our house, while tracking her location on our shared app, confirming she was at work. The familiarity of our home now felt like a cruel joke. I efficiently packed essential belongings, clothes, personal documents, irreplaceable mementos, leaving furniture and household items behind. While gathering my things, I discovered more evidence of her infidelity: hotel receipts tucked in her dresser drawer, gift receipts for items I had never seen. In her planner, I found the name Brad circled on multiple dates. Brad, her coworker whom I had met at company events, who had shaken my hand with a friendly smile while sleeping with my wife. Before leaving, I placed my wedding ring on her pillow, my only message to her. I took one final look around the home we had built together, memorizing details I would soon force myself to forget. The framed photo of us in Maui, the silly refrigerator magnets collected from our trips, the paint color we had spent 3 weekends debating, all of it now tainted by betrayal. That afternoon, I met with a divorce attorney, documenting the infidelity and beginning legal proceedings. The lawyer would handle all communication, serving as a buffer between Stephanie and me. I was determined that she would not hear my voice or see my face again. From Daniel's guest house, I watched my digital devices explode with notifications as Stephanie discovered my disappearance. 20 missed calls the first hour. 40 text messages ranging from confused to furious. Emails demanding explanations. Voicemails alternating between tears and anger. I read and listened to each one without responding, witnessing her panic grow as she realized I had discovered her betrayal and chosen to walk away without a word. Day 1. Where are you? Call me back immediately. Day 2. This is childish, Asa. We need to talk like adults. Day 3. Please. I can explain everything. It is not what you think. Day 4. You cannot just disappear. We are married. You have responsibilities. Her messages revealed more about her character than she intended. Not once did they contain genuine apologies or acknowledgments of wrongdoing. Instead, they focused on her feelings, her inconvenience, her need for resolution. Each communication reinforced my decision to cut all direct contact. Through Daniel, I learned she had begun contacting my friends, creating a narrative that painted me as mentally unstable, claiming she feared for my safety, when in reality she feared for her reputation. She told people I had left without explanation, conveniently omitting her infidelity. Some mutual friends began calling Daniel concerned about me inadvertently becoming her reconnaissance team. She showed up at my workplace, creating a scene in the lobby, demanding to know my whereabouts. My boss, aware only that I was dealing with personal issues, had security escort her out. Later that week, she started a social media campaign, portraying herself as the abandoned, bewildered wife, sharing old photos of us with captions like "Missing my husband. Please come home." The performance was masterful. Had I not seen the truth with my own eyes, even I might have believed her. When she could not reach me through conventional means, Stephanie escalated. She contacted my parents, spinning a tale about how I had suddenly changed, become secretive and withdrawn, then disappeared without warning. She suggested I might need psychiatric help. My mother called me in tears, worried I had suffered some kind of breakdown. I broke my silence, only to assure my parents I was safe, and to share the barest outline of what had happened. They were disappointed in my approach, suggesting that marriages required communication to work through problems. "Ghosting is for teenagers, not married adults," my father said. Their reaction stung, but I stood firm in my decision. Stephanie's determination to find me targeted Daniel next. She showed up at his house repeatedly, each visit becoming more volatile than the last. She screamed accusations from his front yard, threatened legal action for harboring me, and once attempted to force her way inside. After the third incident, Daniel filed for a restraining order, which only fueled her sense of victimhood. Through anonymous social media accounts, I observed her public unraveling. Friends reported her excessive drinking at social events, emotional outbursts, and increasingly erratic behavior. She missed work, something the career-driven woman I had married would never have done. Her carefully cultivated image was crumbling, revealing the chaos beneath. From a safe distance, I watched with mixed emotions. Part of me, a part I was not proud of, felt vindicated seeing her perfect facade crack. The larger part felt profound sadness for what could have been for the genuine love I had invested in someone who had betrayed it so casually. As weeks passed, the social fallout intensified. Our friend circle fractured with people taking sides based on incomplete information. Many believed her victim narrative, viewing me as the villain who had abandoned his wife without cause. Others, particularly those closer to me, suspected there was more to the story but respected my privacy. At work, gossip affected my professional reputation despite my remote status. Colleagues who had once respected me questioned my character based on Stephanie's public accusations. My boss remained supportive, but warned that I would eventually need to address the situation more directly if I wanted to preserve my career. Through Daniel and other friends, I discovered Stephanie's betrayal ran deeper than I had initially realized. Brad was not her only affair partner. There had been others, a revelation that simultaneously validated my decision and deepened my wound. The person I had loved, trusted, and built a life with was fundamentally different from who I had believed her to be. The breaking point came 2 months after my disappearance. Stephanie somehow tracked down Daniel's address and arrived with her parents and brother in tow. They pounded on the door, demanding to see me, creating a disturbance that prompted neighbors to call police. I watched from the window as officers explained the restraining order, as her family defended her actions while she cried dramatically for the benefit of onlookers. That night, I sent an anonymous email to her family, containing irrefutable evidence of her multiple affairs, photos, receipts, calendar entries, hotel bills, everything I had gathered before leaving. Their subsequent silence spoke volumes. The family support system that had been enabling her victim narrative disappeared overnight. When divorce papers were finally served, Stephanie created her most public spectacle yet. At the courthouse, she collapsed, in theatrical tears, claiming abandonment and cruelty. Reporters from local news outlets captured the scene, and by evening our private devastation had become public entertainment. The headlines painted me as the heartless husband who had ghosted his devoted wife without cause. The weight of social condemnation became crushing. Even people who knew about her infidelity questioned my method of leaving. You could have confronted her, they said. You could have tried counseling. You could have handled it better. Their criticism implied I owed my betrayer the courtesy of an explanation that her deception deserved more respect than I had shown it. For the first time since discovering her betrayal, I broke down completely. Alone in Daniel's guest house, I released months of suppressed emotion in heaving sobs that felt torn from my soul. Had I made the wrong choice, would a confrontation have provided better closure? Had my ghosting been an act of self-protection or childish revenge? 6 months after walking out of my former life, the divorce finalized. The evidence of infidelity was so overwhelming that Stephanie's attempts to claim abandonment gained no legal traction. We divided assets without direct communication, our lawyers handling all interactions. The house sold debts, settled ties, legally severed. With the legal chapter closed, I felt ready for geographical distance as well. I accepted a remote position with my company and relocated to Denver, Colorado, a city where neither of us had connections or history. The mountain landscape felt cleansing, offering perspective that Boston's familiar streets could not provide. My new apartment became a fresh canvas. I purchased only items that held no associations with my previous life. Different furniture styles, different color schemes, different artwork. Each choice represented a reclaiming of identity, a statement about who Asa was beyond the relationship that had defined him for so long. At my sister's insistence, I began therapy sessions, finally acknowledging the trauma I had experienced. The therapist never criticized my decision to ghost Stephanie, but helped me understand both the strength and pain underlying that choice. Through weekly sessions, I began processing not just the betrayal, but the abrupt severance of a life I had believed in completely. Slowly, I reconnected with supportive friends, those who had respected my boundaries and refrained from judgment. I established new friendships in Denver, cautious but not closed off. I joined hiking groups, took cooking classes, volunteered at animal shelters, activities that expanded my world beyond the narrow focus of recovery. The hurt diminished gradually, not in dramatic moments but in small realizations. One morning I noticed I had gone a full day without thinking about her. Another evening I laughed genuinely at a comedy show without the shadow of pain dulling the experience. Milestones of healing, accumulated, undramatic, but significant. 3 months into my Colorado life, an email arrived from Caroline, once a close mutual friend. Unlike others who had demanded explanations or offered unsolicited advice, her message was simply an apology. I should have trusted that you had reasons for your decisions, she wrote. I failed you as a friend by not giving you that benefit of doubt. Caroline shared what she knew of Stephanie's life since our divorce. The carefully constructed victim narrative had crumbled under scrutiny. Professional consequences had followed her workplace affairs. Friends had withdrawn as her behavior became increasingly erratic. She had eventually moved back to her hometown, a retreat rather than a fresh start. Learning about Stephanie's struggles provoked unexpected compassion in me. I did not regret my decision to leave, nor did I wish to reconnect. but I could acknowledge the human suffering without diminishing my own. Her choices had created consequences for us both, and there was no satisfaction in her pain, only sadness for what could have been. With time and distance, I gained clarity about my choice to ghost. Had I confronted her, the narrative would have shifted to my reaction rather than her actions. She would have had opportunity to manipulate the situation to cast herself as remorseful, to pressure me into forgiveness I was not ready to give. The clean break, while shocking to observers, had protected my healing process from further damage. I began to understand that boundaries are not always neat or socially acceptable. Sometimes they are messy, uncomfortable, even appearing cruel to those watching from outside. But their purpose is not social approval, it is self-protection. I had chosen the boundary I needed at tremendous social cost, and despite the judgment it provoked, that choice had preserved something essential within me. The most unexpected interaction came nearly a year after the divorce. While visiting Boston for a work conference, I literally bumped into Lisa, Stephanie's younger sister, at a coffee shop. The shock on her face mirrored my own, but rather than hurrying away, she asked if we could talk. Over coffee, Lisa offered perspective I had never expected. "She was wrong what she did to you," she said simply, and the way she behaved afterward made it worse. Our family enabled her victim story until we saw the evidence. "I wanted you to know that not everyone blames you for walking away." That conversation provided a different kind of closure than a confrontation with Stephanie ever could have. It acknowledged the reality of what had happened, without demanding I expose my still healing wounds. It validated my experience without requiring me to justify my response. Dating again happened gradually, cautiously. My first attempts were awkward, burdened by baggage I was still learning to manage. But with each coffee date or dinner conversation, the process became more natural. I was careful to establish clear boundaries and expectations, bringing new awareness to relationship dynamics I had previously taken for granted. My experience changed how I viewed connection and commitment. I became more attentive to actions rather than words, to patterns rather than promises. I developed greater appreciation for consistency and transparency in relationships. Trust, once given freely, now required demonstration over time. These were not walls but windows, allowing me to see more clearly while still permitting genuine connection. 18 months after discovering Stephanie's betrayal, I realized the anger that had once consumed me had transformed into something quieter, a melancholy acknowledgement of loss, coupled with appreciation for lessons learned. The experience had reshaped me, but no longer defined me. I had built a life that honored the pain without surrendering to it. Looking back, I recognized that ghosting was neither heroic nor villainous. It was simply the boundary I needed when conventional boundaries had been shattered. Walking away without words had seemed cruel to observers, who did not understand that every previous word had been rendered meaningless by betrayal. My silence spoke what confrontation could not. The deepest lesson came in recognizing that sometimes the bravest response to violation is not fiery confrontation, but quiet withdrawal of presence. Society celebrates explosive reactions, dramatic confrontations, public reckonings, but there can be profound courage in simply closing the door and walking away, refusing to perform expected emotional labor in response to betrayal. I learned that self-worth exists independent of relationship status or others' perceptions. When every external validation was stripped away, marriage, social approval, even family support, something solid remained at my core. That discovery became the foundation upon which I rebuilt stronger for having found it through devastation. The freedom that emerged from this experience was not what I would have chosen, but has become precious nonetheless. Freedom from needing universal approval. Freedom from relationships built on performance rather than authenticity. Freedom to define my own boundaries according to my needs rather than social expectations. As I write this today, I am not the same person who walked out of that house with a shattered heart. The experience broke me open, but in that breaking, created space for greater authenticity and deeper understanding. I do not know what path my life might have taken had Stephanie remained faithful, but I have made peace with the path that chose me instead. What about you? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice that others did not understand? How did you handle the social fallout? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real stories about life's unexpected turns. Remember that your path to healing belongs to you alone, regardless of what anyone else thinks you should do. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to honor your own boundaries, whatever they may be.